Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a fascinating and, well, really specific look at a topic that's probably front of mind for anyone currently traveling through Nepal. And here's a funny coincidence for you. As we're talking, today, Monday, September 29th, 2025, is actually the main day of this very festival. We are talking about Dashain.
Right. And if you are in Nepal right now, you're likely experiencing one of two things. Either the quietest, most peaceful Kathmandu you could possibly imagine, or you're just incredibly frustrated because nothing seems to be going according to plan.
Exactly. So we're digging into the insights from David Ways, who spent, years documenting Nepal's culture, and he really nails the central paradox of Dashain. It's known everywhere as Nepal's greatest festival. Hugely important, a 10-day national holiday for Nepali people. But for tourists visiting, often it feels like, well, a serious annoyance, or maybe even just a complete non-event.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to give you a kind of strategic survival guide. We want to show you how to navigate this time, not just, put up with it, but actually maybe turn this temporary inconvenience into a unique travel opportunity. Understanding the timing, the closures, it's key.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. For anyone hearing the name Dashain for the first time, what exactly is it? Why is it such a big deal culturally?
Well, at its core, Dashain is the annual time for going home. You can sort of picture it as this massive nationwide family reunion. For about 10 days, pretty much everyone travels back to their birthplace, their ancestral village, to spend time with relatives they might not have seen since the last Dashain. The focus is really intensely private and family-oriented.
So it sounds like the opposite of a big public festival then. There aren't like huge street parades or ceremonies for foreigners to watch.
Not really, no. Not in the traditional sense. The celebrations mostly happen inside people's homes. The whole week is basically focused on feasting, sleeping, reconnecting with family, and really importantly, receiving blessings from the elders, though the mythology behind it is quite powerful. It commemorates the goddess Durga defeating evil. So this idea of good winning out over bad stuff is central to the celebration.
Okay, tell us a bit more about those blessings, because that sounds like the main cultural thing a visitor might actually get a chance to see or maybe even take part in, if they're lucky.
Right, the tika, that's the central ritual. It's the red and white mark that gets put on the forehead. And crucially, it's not just like a pretty decoration. It's a very specific, potent blessing given by the family elders, usually the oldest, most respected person in the family to the younger ones. The red paste, it symbolizes blood, energy, vitality, and the white rice grains, purity, prosperity.
Yeah.
So receiving that tika from an elder, it signifies respect, honor, and it's about passing down status and wisdom. It's a very formal, quiet, but really meaningful exchange. It reinforces the whole family structure, and that's why everyone rushes home, to get that specific annual blessing.
Right, okay. And since it's based on the lunar calendar, the dates change each year, but it usually falls late September, maybe early to mid-October.
Which brings us squarely to the big problem. Why does this really lovely family time cause so much, hassle for travelers? Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. The timing is just, frankly, terrible for tourism. It lands smack bang in the middle of Nepal's peak trekking and travel season, high season. And because Dashain is a national holiday, everything that depends on the government just shuts down. And I really mean everything.
So what are the absolute critical closures people need to plan around? What must they get done beforehand?
Any kind of official business, it just stops for up to 10 days sometimes. So if you're traveling independently, you absolutely have to sort out your legal stuff before the festival kicks off. That means getting any necessary visa extensions done and really, really critically, securing your trekking permits. If you're heading up into the mountains, you need that paperwork. Your TIMS card. That's the Trekker's Information Management System card, and your national park entry permits. If you leave it too late and Dashain starts, those offices are shut tight. And you're basically stuck just waiting for them to reopen. That's a massive headache, logistically speaking.
Wow, okay. And even if you're not trekking, the slowdown affects pretty much the whole service industry too, right?
Oh, absolutely. The private sector runs on what feels like a skeleton staff. Think about your favorite little guest house or that restaurant you like. The owner, the cook, the waiter, chances are they've all traveled back to their villages for their tika. So the few staff left behind, they're juggling everything. You should expect slower service, maybe reduced menus, shorter opening hours. Patience isn't just nice to have, it's essential.
Okay, now let's get to the transport crisis. David Ways really flags this as the point where travelers feel the most pain.
Yeah, it's the ultimate bottleneck. Seriously. Imagine the entire population of Kathmandu and Pokhara deciding to leave the cities pretty much all at once. Bus tickets, they become like gold dust. They sell out incredibly fast, and every single bus is crammed full.
And the information highlights a specific window for this crunch time. It's not actually during the quiet days of Dashain itself, is it?
No, that's right. The peak chaos, the real squeeze, happens in the 2 or 3 days just before Dashain officially starts. That's when the mass exodus happens. If you need to travel during that specific narrow window, especially on popular routes like Kathmandu to Pokhara or down to Chitwan for wildlife, you are literally shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of thousands of Nepalists trying to get home. Domestic flights are just as bad, if not worse. They get booked solid weeks in advance sometimes.
Okay, so this raises a really practical question. If you're landing in Nepal right before this, or maybe even during it, how do you actually survive? What are the steps?
Right. First thing, take a deep breath. It is manageable, but you need to think ahead. Rule number one is advance booking, especially for flights. Book all your domestic flights, ideally a week or two ahead, maybe even more if you can. Secondly, if you're taking a tourist bus to a major destination like Pokhara, book that ticket as far ahead as you possibly can too.
What about if you're trying to go somewhere a bit more off the beaten path, maybe a smaller regional town?
Yeah, that takes a bit more effort. For those local long-distance buses, you'll probably need some help. You often need to book maybe 1 or 2 days ahead, and this is where having a Nepali-speaking friend or getting your hotel manager involved or using a local travel agent becomes really, really helpful. Their booking systems aren't always easy for foreigners to navigate online. Honestly, don't hesitate to email a domestic travel agent or your hotel maybe a couple of weeks before you even arrive, especially if you're flying in. They can pre-book tickets for you. It saves so much stress compared to arriving right into that transport crunch.
Okay, so beyond transport, the best strategy, it seemed, is actually to avoid that whole crunch period by being smart about where you choose to spend those 10 days.
Exactly. That's the key pivot. The best advice is often plan to stay put. Don't try and fight the crowds to move somewhere new right when everyone else is moving. If you're arriving, just anchor yourself in a major center that has enough variety and services to keep you occupied. The Kathmandu Valley is perfect for this. You can easily hop between Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur, or just settle into Pokhara by the lake. These places have enough restaurants still open and enough culture to explore to easily fill 10 days.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting for some travelers.
Yeah.
There's an almost foolproof escape plan if your priority is activity rather than, say, deep cultural immersion, the mountains.
Yes. The trekking trails are the great equalizer here. The Shane just doesn't really penetrate the high country. Trekkers heading into areas like Annapurna or the Everest region, they often won't even notice the festival is happening down below. Tea houses stay open, and guides and porters are working. The trails are completely unaffected. So if your main goal is adventure, high-altitude hiking, this is actually a perfect time to be up on the trails.
But if you do decide to wait it out in the lowlands, we should probably advise people to avoid the smaller, less developed towns.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to sit out the closures in somewhere like Lumbini or maybe even Chitwan could get pretty boring fast. You might struggle to find enough open places to eat or interesting things to fill your days while you're just waiting for the buses to run normally again. Stick to the big cultural hubs like Kathmandu or Pokhara.
Right. Now, let's completely flip this. Let's talk about the payoff. We've talked about the hassles. So what's the upside? What does this nationwide pause actually offer the visitor?
Okay, the silence. That's the secret weapon. If you are physically in Kathmandu during the main days of Dashain, the city completely transforms. Kathmandu is normally defined by noise, isn't it? The constant roar of motorbikes, the horns, the shouts from vendors, just the sheer energy of traffic everywhere. For 10 days, a lot of that just vanishes. The city roads become virtually empty, blissfully traffic-free. It's almost eerie, but in a good way.
That's actually a revolutionary thought for anyone who's experienced Kathmandu's usual chaotic vibe.
Yeah.
It means this is arguably the best time of year for a certain kind of sightseeing.
Yeah. Oh, it's unparalleled for that. It instantly becomes one of the best times to explore the old heritage sites. You can wander through Kathmandu Urbar Square, Putton Square, Bhaktapur, without the usual crush of people and motorbikes. You can actually stand in front of a temple and just hear the quiet, focus on the carvings, the architecture, instead of dodging traffic. Bend your photos. They'll be clean, uncluttered, no huge crowds photobombing your shots of these amazing cultural gems. It offers a kind of peace that's almost impossible to find at other times of the year.
And this quiet period also allows for a specific kind of cultural connection that's usually hidden by the usual tourist bustle and city life.
Yeah, exactly. It lets you potentially meet the actual original inhabitants of the Kathmandu Valley, specifically the Nuwari people. Because the Nuwaris are indigenous to the valley, they don't have to travel home like many others who migrated to the city for work. They're celebrating Dashain right there, in their family homes, often in the narrow lanes of the old city quarters. So if you're respectful, maybe just wandering through areas like Old Asantole or parts of Patan and Bhaktapur, you get glimpses into a really genuine internal celebration. And, if you happen to get incredibly lucky and are invited into a home, which is a huge honor, you'll witness a level of hospitality and family connection that's incredibly rewarding. It's a chance to see Nepal at its most authentic, maybe its most slow, and definitely its least commercialized.
That's a great point. And shifting focus slightly outwards, Dashain really underlines how deeply festivals are woven into the fabric of Nepali life, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Nepal's cultural calendar is just one of the richest and most complex anywhere in the world, I'd say. They seem to have more yearly celebrations than almost anywhere else, blending Hindu, Buddhist, Nuwari traditions. It's incredible. Dashain is huge, obviously, but it's just one example of this amazing cultural density. Think about some of the others mentioned, like Losar, the really vibrant Tibetan New Year with mask dances, or Shivaratri, when thousands upon thousands of sadhus gather at Pashupatinath Temple. Holi, of course, the amazing messy festival of colors. And Biscuit Jatra, the Nepali New Year, with those massive chariot processions in Bhaktapur, it's nonstop.
So the lesson for any traveler, really, is that planning requires careful attention to the calendar.
Hmm.
You absolutely have to check the dates because so many of these big celebrations like Dashain are lunar-based. They shift every year, and they can totally impact your travel plans.
Exactly. Check the dates.
So, okay, we kind of circle back to our final thought here. Nepal isn't a country that's engineered for super smooth convenience, maybe like, say, Portugal or Thailand.
Hmm.
It is chaotic sometimes, yes, but that chaos holds incredible cultural beauty. Dashain is a perfect example of that. And the smart traveler learns to use this mandatory pause, this slowdown, to their advantage. Instead of fighting to leave the city, you capitalize on the quiet.
That really is the strategic brilliance of it. It lets you see the city in a way that very few tourists ever get to. Just imagine it. A place usually defined by its noise, its frantic movement, suddenly falling almost silent for 10 days. What kind of new appreciation for the hidden art, the ancient lanes, the community spirit? What emerges in that quiet? That quiet, that unique perspective, is the real reward for planning ahead around Dashain.
That is a powerful image to leave people with. And thinking ahead, once Dashain wraps up, the cultural calendar doesn't really slow down for long, does it?
Yeah.
We need to get ready for the next huge festival just around the corner. Tihar, often called the Festival of Lights.
Ugh, Gihar, yes, that's the next big one. And it's visually stunning, a really celebratory festival, usually spanning 3 to 5 days. It involves lighting candles, little oil lamps everywhere, so the cities just glow. It's beautiful. And it has specific days dedicated to honoring animals, first the crow, then the dog, then the cow, before it culminates in a day for sibling blessings, Paitika, and also the Nuwari New Year celebration. It's much more visually outward-facing than Dashain, much more accessible for visitors to see.
Sounds amazing. We'll definitely be taking an exclusive look at Tihar and what travelers can expect from that colorful festival very soon. But in the meantime, if you are currently navigating Nepal or maybe planning a trip and you need this kind of vital insider info, the sort of knowledge that turns a potentially stressful time into a really magical discovery, we strongly recommend checking out the resources put together by David Ways.
Yeah, The Longest Way Home in Nepal travel website, and especially his guidebooks, are just essential, I think. They contain exactly these kinds of strategic tips, detailed cultural explanations, and practical advice that independent travelers really need to survive and, well, actually thrive in Nepal. Definitely check out his work, everything from daily trek guides to really deep cultural context. It's all in there.
Excellent. Travel wisely, everyone. And we hope maybe some of you get to experience that unique silence of Dashain.